welcome to Impossible Live. Welcome back if you're returning. But either way, I am so delighted and excited you're joining us today. And as the universe would say, usually it's Mel with interesting internet. We are grateful that Yvette's internet is with us at the moment. In case her beautiful smiling face disappears, and you're able to just hear her vibrant voice, we will gladly settle for
Mm.
that great pleasure. But I am delighted to welcome Yvette back in full transparency. And hey, Kimberly, welcome back.
Hey, Kimberly.
In full transparency, this lovely woman has really helped rock and change my world. For those, hey, Therese, how are you? Excited you're joining us. And for those of you who know my introvert voice, ooh, Colonel John Boggs is here. We got military in the house, and a retired Marine Corps
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
colonel at that. I am
Oh,
delighted, but I'm
welcome.
excited you're here to join
Welcome.
us. Let me shush for a little bit. Let me let you get to know amazing, beautiful Yvette, and then we will continue to have a lovely, rich conversation with this amazing, amazing woman. Come on, Yvette, tell us a little bit about wonderful you.
Let me see. I just completely love what I do. I Where shall I start? Well, I'll start with the work that I do in trust, but I also do a lot of work in the area of human ecosystems, change, and culture. And in all those areas, I compete internationally for thought leadership. So I'm always coming out with something new, something upgraded, something different every year since I started. So it's really exciting to be on the leaderboard of in several places. So um, I love trust. It came out of the fact that I started out looking at human ecosystems within the context of organizations. That's where I started. And then it expanded to academia and then to families. But the reason that I chose trust is because I found that there are a lot of people that use, I call trust a binding factor. And a lot of people use substitutes for trust. One of the biggest substitutes is, shall we say, loyalty. And while loyalty can emerge from trust, it also can emerge from ambition and those kinds of personal agenda kinds of reasons. And that means that in situations like that, loyalty can start to distort or mutate into something different, where you start to look at it from a perspective of power and politics. So, I was just enthralled by all of this, and so I started to dig into trust, and the intent was to, start with trust and then move to culture and do other things. But I have not let trust go because I find that when it works, it's almost magical. The way that things change, there's so many unexpected extraordinary outcomes that people were not even working toward. So I just love watching it, transform in its own way. I hope that's what you were looking for, Mel.
From you, any gem, any way, and truly another way to say it would be any day. I I smile all the time because we met at a conference where you presented. And one of the things I crack up at is that sometimes we're attending events and we're not comfortable reaching up or reaching out to the person presenting. We think of them as larger than life. Maybe something they say helps us uh, have hope or inspiration, or in your case, and I really appreciated meeting you, I was looking to learn about trust styles when you spoke. I had never heard of it before. And I mentioned it in a post yesterday that I was looking for it as a resource for my beta course. And I realized I was stuck in that process of building relationships on ways to kind of speak your truth so that people care and people know you care. And that was the one thing about watching you present your care, your style.
Mm, thank
Just
you.
really, really appreciated you and thankful for your grace. And you're gonna laugh. I bought Yvette's book as a Kindle. I had never bought a Kindle before. And I now have a printed copy. And my joke is saying it to Yvette, I am going to get this copy signed. So one of the things I love is as I'm following Yvette around everywhere, is Yvette now is having international trust conversations. Tell us about those,
Oh,
Yvette.
oh, yeah, we're very excited about that. I work with a group of partners who support my work. And one of them suggested, let's do something like a TED Talk. And I was like, nah, I don't want to copy the TED Talks. I think the trust conversations should be from the heart and they should be connective and they should help to transform people who are listening or inspire them. And, as a result of that, we created our own process based on the models that I've created over time. And the process, we do it multiple different ways. We, in one country last week in Italy, we, coached somebody through a difficult trust process that they were going through. And in another one in California, which was in college, this young lady, I mean, she was so dynamic. She spoke about this situation where she was stereotyped. And good morning, uh, Colonel John Boggs. And she's talked about how she was stereotyped and how she elegantly, just elegantly, even though it was painful during the process, she didn't get angry. She just got focused. I mean, it was so brilliant that people were like, one lady at the end of it, she said, I was going to deal with something right after this talk. And she said, as a result of the talk, I'm going to completely change my approach. And, it was more of a peaceful resolution without her losing her empowerment, So it was just brilliant. We started last week. The next one is going to be in Brazil, and people can call in. It's we have one in Brazil. We have another one in California. We have a number of them planned. We have one in the Bahamas where I am. We have a number of them planned this year. So if you check me out, I'll try to keep them all there on my website at orgsoul.com.
That is a great reminder to put up your amazing site, which is a fantastic place to learn more about amazing Yvette. One of the things I love, and I really have to thank you,
Thanks,
that
Kimberly.
reminder that as individuals, that as entrepreneurs, that as emerging, aspiring, or people like Colonel John Boggs, who really experienced leadership at some of the highest levels of government, that many of us are just really looking for ways to kind of increase, whether it's impact's not the right word, increase momentum for others, build relationships, in a in a way that isn't so, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a mad dance. It feels like it's at the right pace to
Mhm.
help others support growth. How do you think we should start when we're exploring trust?
Well, the first thing that you have to keep in mind is trust is not always possible. And that's why people use other binding factors to kind of to force it to happen. But what the process does is it allows, it's more flexible, it guides, but it doesn't force. Um, because if you are facilitating trust, everybody in the relationship, um, they have a decision to make for themselves. You can't force them to trust or not to trust. And so it's really, really important as a facilitator, if that's what you do, to understand that the first thing you need to do is have it in your mind. We're so trained to try and get results. We're so it's about performance management. It's about we have to get these people to work together, and this is by this date, and real relationships, is they don't work that way. So the first thing to do when you're contemplating this kind of work is just to open the space for trust, but you can't force it. And then get trained up to facilitate it, because trust is just layered and complex and interesting and sometimes creates emotions. And so you need to, work on yourself. And a lot of the work that I do starts, there's always a component where you upgrade your level of trust, because you can't facilitate it if you're not capable of it.
Wow. And I love, welcome, Louisa, and thank you for raising a hand
Oh,
always.
Louisa. Oh, this is great news. Thank you.
What you're gonna love, Yvette, is that Louisa was my very first guest for I'm Possible Live.
Hmm.
I tease her all the time that she's the reason I started it, because I knew that I needed to practice before Louisa joined me as my guest. And I'm honored she joined me. So I was so excited about her joining me as a guest that we booked 2 dates, and I made sure that I had chance to practice
Ah,
in between. I'm loving too that Therese also is having some interesting insights.
ah,
This is a deep one. Forcing trust is like trying to force someone to fall in love with you.
that's it. That's it. And it's interesting that you use love, because to me, the two highest quality binding factors are trust and love. And that's what when I work with families, we focus in more with love than in organizations. But certainly, love is something you just cannot force.
Now, I love you mentioning some of the data stuff, because what people didn't know about Mel was I am a data girl, and Yvette really helps break this down into so many different juicy components that I have to thank you for your invitation to get certified last year. And now I have two certifications, my first two certifications because of Yvette. But I think when you're mentioning binding factors, Yvette,
Hmm.
tell us more about that.
Well, I started by saying that the highest quality binding factors are trust and love. And then in the middle, kind of an intermediate level, which a lot of organizations use, would be shared goals and visions. And the vision is usually one vision. And this is not as high a quality as trust and love. It also can facilitate power or toxic power dynamics, but it's better than obligation or duty or loyalty without trust, or those kinds of binding factors that bring people together. Even tolerance, sometimes people use tolerance as a binding factor, and most people know you're only tolerating them anyway. They can feel it because of the neurobiological um, way that the emotions work. They know it's
You're,
not real.
you're reminding me of a conversation with a dear friend who I'm so delighted to watch her leadership footprints in the world, and looking forward to seeing her again next week for the first time in 3.5 years. And this is an amazing, dynamic young leader. who I'm really looking forward to seeing. And I know Catherine's saying I'm having a little bit of reverberation on my end, so I'm going to lean back and let Yvette talk more. But I think you mentioned tolerance, which is really hard in organizations where we don't always feel well supported, or like there were opportunities for collaboration or innovation, or where your contributions are appreciated. I think in some of those cases, tolerance may appear.
Inclusion and tolerance are not my wheelhouse. So I checked it out before I jumped on the call because anything relational has a connection with trust. And I saw that, you know, the first words that I saw in the definition was tolerance is to put up with. So that means you're probably sitting there grinding your teeth, sucking, holding your breath. Yes, Therese. Yeah, I agree. Um, so yeah, you're just literally trying to hold back what you're actually feeling without processing it, and people can tell that you're just being tolerated. They can tell unless they're just so self-absorbed they can't see anything. But to me, tolerance adds to the complexity of the toxicity. you know I think trust, for me, trust is a higher level binding factor than tolerance. And so navigating the relationship so that you can, come to some level of trust. You don't have to be, this soul, deep soul vulnerability kind of trust, but you can learn to trust people in certain ways. Most of us trust certain things about a person and we don't trust other things. We all have strengths and weaknesses, and that's natural. So you can learn to trust that way. You may not trust certain things about them. That's okay. But then you trust other things that they've proven competence in, in those particular areas. So it's a way to start connecting in a way that's more authentic, because tolerance doesn't suggest authenticity. It just it just suggests what the actual definition said, to put up with. That's right. That's right, Louisa. Oh, beautiful.
You're going to love meeting this amazing woman. I'm going to have fun introducing you later today. And inclusivity and maximizing cultural differences are Louisa's wheelhouse.
Mm,
Um, I really appreciate her for helping inspire me is to figure out a place to start. Like, it's really funny now to say that we've been having conversations about inclusion for over 16 months when that wasn't originally one of my wheelhouses. I
mhm,
think I was coming from the perspective of not always feeling included, not always feeling welcome, not always feeling like there was a seat for me at the table. On the other hand, I discovered in that tolerance journey and in operating in some cultures that weren't necessarily based on trust. They said they were based more on loyalty and on rewarding those who appeared to be loyal to the people who were basically trying to hold on to power. And power wasn't my thing. It wasn't my lane. I wasn't interested in the politics of it. I really, as a member, was just showing up for the greater good. How can we make this a lighter, brighter world?
mhm.
So we all have more space to live and flourish, and we can really build a better world for future generations. What I love too, what you're mentioning about your work in this, is you have trust conversations You have amazing monthly webinars, which
Mm.
you did a monthly webinar on self trust that during the process of my trusted leader certification project, I'm telling you, I kept processing the notes and the conversations from that webinar. You help remind me of what you say, that trust is an inside out process. And if we don't start from the inside, we're not going to make any headway.
Mhm. That's right. In fact, the next one in June, we're talking about the bilateral nature of trust. And that's about your trust willingness impacting your trustworthiness. A lot of people don't associate the two. But that session will just focus you on, and this is the inside out, your trust willingness. What's inside of you impacts how people perceive you, how they trust you, how trustworthy they find you to be. So it's all, everything that I do is with regard to trust is interconnected. So each of the monthly calls, each one builds on the next one, and you can jump in at any time because I repeat them every year, and they're all free. I do them once a month, and it's really designed to help people um, to understand. And it's not where I sit and sell. I really get into deep conversations with the attendees and the participants. So you're all welcome to come. I'd love to have you.
Truly enjoying them. I can say with full transparency, I have missed one this year. And I missed one because I couldn't find the Zoom link. So one day I'll have to remember to ask Yvette for the recording of her January webinar.
Right. Okay.
I think also is, just as I'm talking, really, you helped me find a way to kind of let out some light, to share some light through a trust lens. I mean, it's really funny to, in our conversations, in our journey, in our conversations with our team, to really say I'm starting to get lit up by a hashtag that Yvette is endorsing, and ignite trust. I have to really thank you for that.
I love it.
I do too, and I think it's funny. We're not sure what banners we want to carry. If we had a billboard, we're not sure what that billboard would say.
Hmm.
And it's hard sometimes to think of it when we boil it down. And you and I have had great discussions about marketing. And anybody who's listening live or on a replay, join me as one of Yvette's trust ambassadors. Make sure that her trust conversations, that her trust webinars, that her upcoming certifications are not the best kept secret.
Oh,
You've got really cool ones. You have games play for people play at work about having how to navigate workplace politics. That sounds juicy and complex.
it is. It is. There are two parts to it. At one level, we talk about how you engage the political game, because whether you're aware of it or not, you're always in the game. Either you're playing or you're being played. So why not choose to play with ethics according to your rules, as opposed to being used by people without your permission? So, I talk about that in the first half. And, we go through multiple models of power and politics. And then we explore it from a cultural perspective. We take a look at what culture is and how it's set up in terms of structure. And then we look at the systems and the different overlays of political systems and how power balancing, how to do that. So there's quite a lot in there. It's one of my longest courses, but it's I enjoy talking about power and politics and how to engage and not lose your soul, you know.
So are your courses for individuals? Are they for leaders? Are they for organizations? Are they for academia? Who would you say your courses are
Um,
for? If you could define, the types of people that we should invite to come pop in and check out your gems.
there are two types of people that come, consultants and coaches. Come because a lot of what I do expands their toolkits and it helps them understand trust so that they can facilitate as a coach or a consultant. I also have quite a few people from organizations, nonprofits, academia, for profits. They also participate in the courses. So there's a group of leaders that benefit from the courses as well.
You were mentioning also having a course also for spiritual leaders. Is that coming up soon?
Probably in 2024, because the book that you showed, Interconnectivity, Flow, and Balance, has more of a spiritual background. Although I don't, quote the Bible or anything, but the reason behind it was more spiritual. So I'm designing a course that takes a deeper look into the spiritual side of it.
Wow, we're looking forward to that. I know what I'll be doing next year. In the meantime, Yvette, you also have that amazing Evolve podcast. And I'm not the apps girl, but boy, I've got my Podbean app now on my phone so I can listen to Yvette wherever I go. And that's such a cool podcast about reinventing leadership.
Yeah.
And I love that you mentioned building freedom cultures. What's that about?
Ah, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I got into working with organizations as ecosystems because a lot of the cultures are based on, um, the command and control kind of model where you come in, you have a ton of policies, procedures, structures, and you follow them. It's almost like the military. I think it is based on the military, by the way. If I'm not, anyway, I don't really recall, but certainly it emerged in the industrial age where people they were standardizing and doing different things after the agrarian age. So it served its purpose, but we have different types of people. We have different types of information available. We have different generations that think differently. We have so many things that are different, but yet we hold on to that model. And that model, in many cases, people feel like they are unable to grow, and that's why they will end up jumping from one organization to the next because that's how they can develop their career paths. Because the model, for many, they feel that it stifles their opportunities and growth. Because, as one of my clients told one of her employees, she said, "I don't pay you to think." And she's the first one that said it out loud. But she said, "Just do what I tell you to do." And so people are sold a bill of goods, when they join the company or organization. Oh, we're into teamwork and we do this and we do that, but really it's about following orders. So
Wow, that's hard. I love that Catherine shared your amazing links. And I know in the process of discovering some of your amazing certifications, I know you have two more certifications coming up that where your cohorts are kicking on this month. Can you tell us a little bit about the TSI, the Trust Style Index certification,
mm,
and and the Trusted Leader certification, so people can see whether it's a good fit for them or somebody that they know. And I know you also host great information sessions for people who are interested in joining your upcoming cohorts.
mhm. Well, I have one trust style inventory certification coming up. It starts on Wednesday of this week. And what really it targets coaches and consultants. And what we do is the self-study part of the course focuses you on understanding how you approach trust and how you can approach it with more dexterity, because in reality, we change how we trust depending on the quality of the relationship. And so this gives you skills to trust or not trust situationally. So that's one part of it. And then the second part gives you some tools that you can use in addition to the trust style inventory, um, where you can use them to facilitate trust. And also, think about there's some other tools that we provide afterward where you can use it to decide if you're going to trust somebody or not, what your shadows are. So there are multiple tools available, but we start with the trust style inventory as the primary one to help your team members understand whether they should trust or not, and or how they should approach trust or not. Um, it's a We started out, we were thinking, you know what, let's measure trustworthiness. And then we, for the first few betas, we were getting all these people with these high trustworthiness scores. So we went to the um, drawing board and we did a literature review, and we found that most people who take trust assessments, they feel unsafe. Nobody wants to be seen as untrustworthy. And so they coach each other on how to respond. So we scrapped the entire approach and we built emotional intelligence into the design of the tool. And what that means is we took away the scores and everybody gets a style. Because the numbers, people were using the numbers in ways that made people feel unsafe. And so it doesn't provide numbers, it gives you information on your style, which is similar to the Myers Briggs approach. You don't really get numbers, but you get, MBTI, or I forget what the styles are. So that's, it's validated. We work with 6 seconds, which is, what's happening? Sorry, there's some. Oh. We work with 6 seconds, so that what we use their validated assessment, and we rearranged it and added a few tested questions. And so we were able to maintain the validation of the survey. And so, yeah, this is happening again. Okay.
We want you to stay safe. We know that you had storms nearby, and we're hoping that you and your family stay really, really safe in there. Hopefully the storms will not affect you today also.
Yeah, it's not that bad today. Yesterday was a bit worse. But thank you, though. Thanks, Mel. For
No, thank you. And what I love is in the process of popping into your TSI certification, Yvette and I started having conversations about trust shadows
ah,
and trust barriers. And I knew I had plenty. And I appreciate her. She gently said it. In this trusted leader certification course, we'll go a little bit deeper into that. I had no idea how deep. What a journey. What a journey. And I really thank you for the sacred space that you create for members of your community, for us to discover, hmm, you would call them tools to add to our trust building toolkits.
mm-hmm.
But I really think in your certifications, I found resources to do something my Nana always said years ago: treasure your light,
Yeah.
treasure your light. Nana said this so many times that I didn't understand what it meant until one day Nana realized something had changed her granddaughter's light. And
Mhm.
without pushing, without interrogating, without mm, sicking my parents on me, sicking aunts and uncles on me, I loved my Nana dearly. I was honored to be her oldest grand. But Nana really reminded me that sometimes things happen to affect our trust, our self trust.
Mhm.
You'll laugh because on Thursday in Mosaic Nation, I'm going to have my second trust presentation on the essence of trust. I was honored to have a chance in Thought Leadership Branding Club and that Catherine and Carla and Dee joined me for trust opportunities. But I was really reminded you helped in trusted leader certification. We're not sure how we show up. We're not sure how others see us. We also have really sharp lenses of uh, whether we trust ourselves, whether we feel trustworthy. And your trusted leader certification just, whew, more than bilateral. Colonel Boggs is asking, what are trust shadows, Yvette?
I can tell you a little bit about it. What the each of the styles, the trust styles, and we have six of them based on what we call the pillar of trust. At the base of the foundation of the pillar is integrity. Midway up the pillar is emotional mastery, and at the top of the pillar, which is the connective part of the pillar, is your we disposition. And in a healthy state, these styles can help you to navigate really difficult or complex situations. But if you are unaware of how you use these styles in a shadow format, then you can neutralize or even really nullify. Well, that's the same thing. You can neutralize your impact. Like you can have someone who tells the truth, and probably yes, they probably have a strong integrity style. But if they tell blunt truths and they end up hurting people in their path by the way they did it, because their emotional mastery, which is midway up the pillar, is impaired, then it becomes a shadow. But you have these people saying, "Oh, but I told them the truth, and that's what I'm about." But then they created distrust because, especially in environments that are highly political, that are driven by power, truth um, really is a threat. They perceive it as a threat, and if you want to build the relationship differently with these people, the truth only drives them away. And so it requires some building of the emotional mastery and the we disposition in order to deliver the truth in a way that it doesn't create a threat. Now, sometimes you may want to create a threat. That's a different situation. It may be necessary to do it depending on what's going on. But certainly in circumstances where you're trying to build a relationship where truth and transparency are not the norm, you have to work your way into that level of truth giving so that they can trust you. So that's just one example of how a strength can become a shadow, but your shadows can show up in any of the styles. It doesn't have to be the one that you're strongest in.
I love that. I think one of the things that I love too, not so much about the question, but partially about your answer, is that there are at least two sides to this. There's how we look at things as individuals, sometimes how we look at things as a member of a community, sometimes how we look at them as a leader, as a visionary, as a volunteer, as a mentor.
Hmm.
Sometimes I think the shadow is part of complex roles in life or in organizations. And the more I call it a fragile world, and I will continue to do so until we all work together to make it a much brighter world for everyone. But I think in the process, the complexity, there's so many roles. And there are also, as leaders, you may be the leader of a segment of a team. You may be a facilitator for a segment of a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And there are multiple leadership styles in action,
That's it.
in play in all of these organizations. And one of the deepest things, and I almost was spooked to sign up for your trusted leader certification because of it, but I knew I needed to do the barriers and the shadows work. And Yvette just creates amazing sacred spaces to do so. Is that our fears sometimes are in the way of whether we communicate, whether we feel distrust,
Mm-hmm.
whether we feel trust, whether we feel loyalty, whether we feel safe. And what I love is all of Yvette's trainings help improve engagement. They help us improve our relationships. They help us have open conversations about not just about trust, but I think about the process of connection.
Mm-hmm.
People keep saying, reach out, reach out. Some people don't want to be touched like that.
Right.
Um, I remember years ago, they said, think of how you shake hands and work on your handshake, especially as a woman in business. You're going to meet people who are going to judge you by
Mm-hmm.
the strength of your handshake.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really love is just you've given us another opportunity to think some more about this. Definitely follow Yvette, hire her as a keynote speaker. If you're worried about a really long line, I will come and bring family. We will act as security. We will handle her check in line for her books. We will handle her checkout lines. My amazing team, Catherine and Carla, we can use this as an excuse to have an amazing retreat with Yvette. She'll pick a cool location for us to connect and meet in person. But Yvette, as we're leaving today, and I know we got to let you go to figure out what all these alarms are on your phone, and go make zillions of dollars and get ready for your next certification. What is one thing you'd like to leave us with today?
One thing. I think there's so many things about trust. It's hard to bring it to one thing, but I think the one thing I'd like to leave you with is, take another look at yourself and understand that just because you believe you're trusted, it doesn't mean that you are. It may mean that people like you, and the two can be, the liking you doesn't mean that they trust you. And so I know that a lot of leaders feel that, oh, they tell me all their personal this, or they do this, or, they share with me. And, but then when I have a conversation, it's the complete opposite. That's something that, that's something that, thanks, Louisa. That's something that I come across quite a lot. And so, you know, I would encourage you to join me and see, find out some ways that you may be pushing people away, but there's so much into survival mode that they're doing what they need to do and pretending to be what they need to be in order to get by. And I've been, earlier on in my studies with this, I got fooled by a number of teams that seemed to be getting along exceptionally well, but it was all pretend. It was all pretend. It took a while to take the layers off, but you're welcome. You're welcome. So, join me, even if it's just for free. I'm happy. It's no pressure.
Sounds good. Yvette's amazing webinars are on the last Wednesday of every month at
Yeah.
11 a.m. ET. You'll find a link to pop in and join them earlier above. And Yvette, thank you so much. Stay safe, my dear. I hope the
Thank you.
storms and the beginning of hurricane season
Yes.
will last a little while longer so I can pop by, say hi, and bring you my book.
Sign.
And we can all really say it'll be on Possible Live where we all can say it's better in the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful here.
Well, have an amazing, magnificent day.
Same to
And
you.
thank you again for joining us. Yvette will be back. Believe me, she'll be back. Stay safe, stay well, stay inspired, stay in touch, everyone. And
Yes.
take
Thank
great
you.
care. Let us know as you're popping in for replays what you think,
Thank
and
you.
invite friends to come hang out with us
Yes,
on our
please.
trust journeys. Thank you so much. Take great care. Stay well.
Stay well, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.